Good evening and welcome to the July 22nd episode of your Monroe County Board of Zoning and Appeals. I would like to call this meeting to order. Director Jelen, are we good with that?
Sure. I will go ahead and start by calling the roll. Margaret Clements. Skip Daly.
Present.
Pamela Davidson.
Present.
Guy Loftman.
Present.
Dee Owens.
Here.
Okay, so we have 4 members in attendance and a quorum.
Fantastic. Can we call the agenda to order?
Sure. I'll start by the introduction of evidence, and then I'm going to make an announcement before you approve the agenda, if that's okay.
Okay.
So, introduction of evidence. I'd like to introduce the following items into the evidence: the Monroe County Comprehensive Land Use Plan as adopted and amended, the Monroe County Zoning Ordinance as adopted and amended, the Monroe County Subdivision Control Ordinance as adopted and amended, the Board of Zoning Appeals Rules of Procedure as adopted and amended, and the cases advertised and scheduled for a hearing on tonight's agenda.
I move that to introduce the evidence so listed.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the introduction of evidence. A vote yes is a vote to approve. Pamela Davidson?
Yes.
Guy Loftman?
Yes.
Dee Owens?
Yes.
Skip Daly?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 4-0.
All right. The agenda, we have an announcement.
Yes, we received a request on item number 3, which is VAR-24-26. That is the Hubley Eco Area 1 12% slope variance to Chapter 825. This is the petition that's at 8391 South Fairfax Road. That petitioner has requested a continuance, so they would be put onto a subsequent BZA agenda. So I think that if you are interested in entertaining that amendment, then you would be able to vote to approve an amended agenda by continuing item number 3.
Can I hear for a motion for that?
I move that we continue variance 24-26, the Hubley Eco Area.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
I heard D second that, I believe.
Did Guy move to approve the agenda with that change?
I
with the
move
change,
to approve the continuance as requested by the Hubleys.
So we'll continue without item 3.
Because I think that's what our rules say. If somebody, we're supposed to vote on that. So
Separately.
You are correct.
Okay.
Okay, so the first motion will be to approve the continuance of VAR-24-26, and then a subsequent vote, I'll call for the approval of an amended agenda. So a vote yes is a vote to approve continuance of VAR-24-26. Guy Loftman?
yes.
Dee Owens?
Yes.
Skip Daly?
Yeah. Yes.
Pamela Davidson?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 4-0.
Ms. Owens, you look like you're muted because I couldn't hear your vote, but I'm sure it was yes. Thank you.
It was yes.
All right, can we have a motion on continuing the agenda without item 3, please?
I move that we accept the agenda as indicated with the exception of item 3.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the amended agenda without item number 3. A vote yes is a vote to approve the agenda as otherwise presented, except for item 3. Guy Loftman?
Yes.
Dee Owens?
Yes.
Skip Daly?
Yes.
Pamela Davidson?
Yes.
Okay, motion is approved 4-0. I don't believe we had any minutes to approve. So then I think the next item would be administrative business, BZA rules of procedure.
Do we have any business that a board member would like to bring to the table?
I don't know of any changes in the BZA rules of procedure, so,
We do have one change.
okay, I
proposed.
missed that.
That was in our packet of information, and it took out the specific reference to petition and appeals, but left a 10-day notice requirement intact. Essentially, that's what the only change to the rules was.
I'm sorry I didn't do that part of my homework. It'd be just one moment.
I have it up on the screen as
Yeah,
well.
There we go.
I see it.
So I did a little bit of digging into this original language, and prior to our 1997 ordinance, we actually took some petitions through the Plan Commission, such as conditional uses. So this original rules of procedure was written to bifurcate some amendments or some changes that go to the Plan Commission and other items that go to the Board of Zoning Appeals. But because you all oversee conditional uses, variances, use variances, et cetera, it's just the board now. So we don't have to handle, the Plan Commission has their own rules of procedure. So we're just cleaning up some of the
Good.
language.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
In light of that clarification, I move to approve the amended rule.
And I second that, and thank you as well for that clarification.
Sure. All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the BZA rules of procedure as amended in the packet. A vote yes is a vote to approve the amendment. D. Owens,
Yes.
Skip Daly,
Yes.
Pamela Davidson,
Yes.
Guy Loftman.
Yes.
Okay, motion is approved 4-0.
All right, with that, let's move on to page 12 of your packets. This is new business CDU-24-2 Bob Double conditional use for general contractor rural to chapter 802. Mr. Brown, do you have a presentation for us?
Yes. So this is a conditional use for a general contractor. The purpose is to establish a business here. A use determination was filed by the petitioner to confirm if the subject property could be used as a storage structure for his general contracting business, which is value built construction. Chapter 802 of the zoning ordinance lists general contractor as a conditional use in an agricultural rural reserve zone. Hence, this conditional use was triggered. The subject property is zoned both agriculture, rural reserve, and mineral extraction. The property is bisected by West Vernal Pike, and the northern part is agriculture, rural reserve, and the southern part is mineral extraction. However, all proposed activities will be contained within the portion of the property that is zoned for agriculture, rural reserve. A residential building permit, R-24-432, was submitted for this property. If approved, a site plan that meets the conditions of Chapter 815 will be required. So the petitioner intends to establish a storage building on this property, namely a 5,376 square foot pole barn structure for storing materials. And this will be in addition to an attached 960 square foot 2-bedroom apartment. The petitioner has stated that the apartment will be occupied by his son, who is a project manager for the general contracting business. A general contractor is defined in Chapter 802 as an individual who contracts to perform building/structure construction related work, or to provide supplies on a large scale, or an individual who contracts to erect buildings and or other structures. Construction related work may include, but are not limited to, plumbing, landscaping, electrical, framing, concrete, masonry, roofing, etc. It is also subject to special condition number 15. The Plan Commission may attach additional conditions to its approval in order to prevent injurious or obnoxious dust, fumes, gases, noises, odors, refuse matter, smoke, vibrations, water carried waste, or other objectionable conditions, and to protect and preserve the character of the surrounding neighborhood. And here are the conditional use standards in Chapter 813, which all conditional use proposals have to abide by. This is also included in the packet. Would the board like me to read through these?
I'd review them.
In addition, the general contractor rule has development and operational standards also listed in Chapter 815. This information was also included in the packet. Would the board like me to read through these?
Not I. Thank you. I read them.
And here is the petitioner letter. This was also included in the packet. And here are some images of the property. The one on the left is just showing the overall location of the property. The one on the right is showing the zoning. As mentioned earlier, this property is 2 different zoning districts bisected by West Vernal Pike, agriculture rural reserve to the north, and mineral extraction to the south. And here is the site conditions map. There is not a lot of slope. The slope is marked in red. The various colors along here are indicative of a floodplain area, and there is a floodplain permit in process as well. And here are just some on-the-ground photos of the property. The one on the left is from the right-of-way looking west, and the other is from the right-of-way looking south towards the area that is zoned for mineral extraction across West Vernal Pike. Here, and that's the petitioner submitted, as well as a zoomed-in area showing where he intends to build. Again, all of the proposed activity is going to be in the portion of the lot that is zoned for agriculture rural reserve. And so, regarding CDU-24-2, staff recommends approval of the conditional use petition for a conditional use from Chapter 802 and 813 based on the ability to meet the definition of general contractor with the following conditions. 1, the petitioner is to apply for a commercial site plan review and land use certificate before commencing the use. 2, the business operator must record an affidavit and commitment saying that they will reside on the property full-time. 3, the petitioner must meet the following requirements for their floodplain development permit, FP-24-11. And those are A, elevation 737.5 feet is to be delineated on site with a silt fence. B, no fill is to be added to the floodplain through the final grade process. And C, any fill added below the elevation contour of 737.5 feet must comply with Chapter 808, Section 5A11, compensatory storage requirements. And I will take any questions from the board.
Do we have any questions?
I want to compliment the staff. When I read pages 13 through 15, a lot of detail, a lot of points considered on a thorough factual recitation. So I just want to appreciate you for that.
Thank you.
I have one question. Did you have the opportunity to go over these conditions with the applicant?
I don't think it was discussed. However, it was submitted out with the packet. But
with no further ado, let's.
I've got a couple.
Oh.
Sorry. If this is approved, the proposal is for storage, but would the owner be able to also run contracting operations from there, or is this in any way limited to storage?
I believe that, let's see, there will not be any exteriors. The petitioner has stated in their letter that they The use of the structure is twofold. Quote, 1, to provide sheltered material storage for our business, and 2, to provide a residence for our son, James Corker, who is also the project manager for our business.
Right, and I understand that somebody has to live there, but I don't see, unless we make that a condition, or have we made it a condition that it only be used for storage, not for general operations?
So I think your question, Guy, is even if what they're requesting is sort of the floor of the use,
Yes.
they may have a ceiling of a use that's much higher intensity. And are you asking if we could condition it at the lower level?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, well
Okay.
put, thank you.
So it's a good question. I think that when someone comes before us for a conditional use and states, they're meeting the conditions as presented, if that business over time expands or they become very successful, we do point back to these BZA minutes and reports to say, this is not what was originally presented to the board for your approval. However, if, the expansion of the use still meets the conditions, even if we ask them to come back, they may still be granted the use, even if it changes. But I think that, let's say they change and have multiple employees coming to the property. Well, the conditional use states that they can only have so many off-site employees. So if you don't believe that the stated conditions of the use are narrow enough to limit future use, then I would recommend some sort of either written commitment or condition to say, no employees coming to the property to, park there or run their vehicles or only, only indoor storage. Technically, we do allow outdoor storage, but they're not proposing it. So there's different ways that you could condition it or offer written commitment.
Okay, thank you, that's very helpful. And one other, and I'm not sure, I don't have the hard copy printed, but there's one point where we said they will reside. And they is sort of a broad term here. Does that mean a family member of the owner of the business will reside?
It will be James Cocker, who is the son of the petitioner as well as a project manager for the business.
Right, but it's not going to be dependent on that individual. It's going to be I'm assuming that a condition is that somebody affiliated with the business or affiliated with the owner of the real estate. I'm just a little confused how, or could they just rent this out to anybody?
Mr. Loughlin, I believe what you're saying is that the condition does not specify who has to reside there. In this instance, they're stating that the son will reside there. However, you're looking at a long-term, and what does that mean? And does the condition need to be more specific is what
Yes,
you're
thank
asking.
you. That's exactly right. And I don't think we need to ask you to answer those questions. I think we can talk with the petitioner and as the time.
And that's largely our job to determine conditions.
And then we'll, if I feel I want to narrow that, or if somebody else does, we'll make a motion to that effect. But I wanted to ask staff, and
Sure.
I think we have agreement, at least in the board and with the staff, I should confirm, that they is pretty broad. Yeah, okay, thank you. No other questions.
All right. Zones, do you have anything?
I just wanted to point out that this sounds like a family project because their daughter also lives there. They live there down the road, and they're talking about that they'll use this for storage as well as the son living there. So that sounds pretty good to me, but we'll see when they come back on.
All right. Let's go ahead and offer the petitioner or a representative some time. Let's go ahead and give you 15 minutes if you'd like to come up and speak. Before you do so, please make sure that you're signed in. And in addition to that, make sure that microphone is angled at a correct distance for you. And before you offer any testimony, just gonna ask you to raise your right hand and swear that your testimony is the truth as you know it.
All right. My name's Robert Double. The testimony I'm to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Thank you. Proceed. 15 minutes. Take it away.
Okay. Yeah, we do have another facility that we have a 15-year land lease on that's on Highway 46, right next door to the Tractor Supply store. That's where we keep all of our equipment. That's where employees report to work. They park there. They get into our work trucks and haul away, equipment that we own. So, and then presently we lease a storage facility in Enterprise Park. This project will supplant what we're doing there. Right now, it's about a 1,500 square foot facility we lease. We're out of space. We need more space. So this project would be providing space that we need strictly for storage. It's going to be different components for home building. Primarily what we do is home build. So it would be windows, appliances. There will on occasion be employees pulling up to get those materials, but it will not be a place where customers come for transacting business. So that's the purpose that we need to build it. And frankly, that parcel of land is 3/4 of it's in the floodplain, and it just makes sense that would be a suitable use for that land anyway. So that's, and the other board member mentioned my daughter and son-in-law are building on the parcel right next door. Their house is under construction. They've got permitted for. And then we live on the next parcel right there. So it's all, presently, it was a total of 38 acres that we purchased. And it's been subdivided into 10 to 13 acre parcels. So.
Well, thank you for that. I do have a couple questions before we open it up to the rest of the board. One, have you had the opportunity to look through the conditions that were recommended by staff?
I'm not sure if I knew of the condition for residing in the property. I mentioned when I petitioned, the original petition was that our son is desirous of living in the apartment. He's not on the deed to the property, but if that were a necessity, we'd be happy to add him as an owner of the property. Beyond that.
But you mentioned you live in the adjoining parcel?
Parcel. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be within eyesight. So.
Okay. And the other, apply for a commercial site plan, well, you have to do that anyhow. Must record an affidavit of communicate, reside, okay. And the floodplain development, yeah, you have to do those anyhow. Okay. The other question is, we had a board member that was looking at potential for your company's growth. Do you want to just go ahead and nip some of that in the bud and address, do you, in your wildest imaginations, do you have any future use for this land that you've not already specified?
No. We've been in business 6 years, and we've grown phenomenally over the last 6 years. This last year, 2023, we had over 14 million in sales. We'll probably hit close to 20 this year.
Right.
But we maintain all of our equipment, like I said, on that. It's about a 3-acre parcel there right on the highway, which is a lot more convenient and access to it. So
Sure.
it wouldn't make sense for us to really pursue
Well,
use.
see if my colleagues have any questions before we open it up. Anyone?
Yes. My concern is not you or your family. It's that this goes with the land, and it'll,
Right.
unless something changes, it might be 30 years from now or 50 years when your family might not be running this operation anymore. And my experience is it's one thing to have a storage facility where people go in and out with trucks and unload the windows, and another thing that it's an operations place and everybody's showing up there and punching their time cards and starting the backhoes. If we added a limitation, a condition that it be used for storage, but not be used for general operations, would that be any problem for you?
None whatsoever.
And you might see where some future neighbor would appreciate that restriction, and it wouldn't affect you. Okay, I have a couple of the things that I'm going to want to ask staff
The
now.
son who is going to be occupying the apartment is the potential owner of the business down the road. So it should stay in the family for
And I hope it
quite
does.
a few years.
I love family businesses that go on from generation to generation, but I've got to consider other
Right.
options too.
And you're absolutely right about the location. 46 is a place to have a business. Thomas Road, not a bit. You couldn't even get big equipment down that road. No question. It would be treacherous. No question. And thanks for telling us about the 15-year lease too. Thank you for that.
Ms. Owens?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
All right. I think you're good. You, Mr. Lofton, you said you had a quick question before we bring the
Well,
public in?
It really, okay. Someplace, Mr. Brown, in the first slide you show, it said the Plan Commission, and I'm a little surprised that. Let me see if I can get back there. It was number 15. It said.
Are you referring to the very last point?
Well, it said
Yes.
the Plan okay, yes, there we are. The Plan Commission may attach additional. But we're the Board of Zoning Appeals, of course. So I'm curious why that, okay, that's because the Plan Commission might, but it doesn't really have anything to do with our authority.
Absolutely not.
Okay, so that's good. Thank you. And I have no more questions for Mr. Double, and I'm glad to hear from the public.
Great. All right. With that, let's hear from the public. Is there anybody online or on the phone that would like to speak in favor of this petition? I see nothing. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak on behalf of this petition? Seeing no one, is there anyone online or on the phone that would like to speak in opposition to this petition? Anybody in the audience that might like to speak in opposition to this petition? Seeing no one, board discussion. I'll start off with, I am happy to support a condition that that we add for no general operations for the business, but I would also like to see a motion eliminating recommended condition number 2. I don't feel it necessary. I don't. So that's what my hope is. I think with this business owner having this long-term business and long-term into the future set up, and they reside on those parcels next to it, that's what I'm hoping someone will recommend as a motion.
Well,
I will mention that the recorded affidavit is a requirement under the conditional use under 813. So unfortunately, that one was listed. 1 and 2 are listed, are really just next steps for the applicant. They're procedural.
Say that one more time for me.
The affidavit is a requirement of the conditional use. So it's a next step for the petitioner. It's not necessarily something that can be amended at this point.
Because it's already been.
So under chapter 813-10, the conditions for a general contractor rural include presence of a primary residence on the property. Business owner / operator must record an affidavit and commitment stating they will reside on the property full time.
Okay.
And it says the petitioner has stated that they will, but they have not yet done the affidavit. So in order for us to say that they meet the conditions, the next step is for them to record that affidavit.
So it lays out that that is a statutory requirement for either an owner or an operator to reside there. So this condition is not that this happens. This condition is that they sign the affidavit.
Yes, that they sign an affidavit that we
Right.
have to say that they meet all the
Then if
conditions.
that's beyond our authority, I will withdraw my recommendation there, and we'll open it up to other discussion.
I'm going to make a motion to grant CDU-24-2, the Bob Double conditional use for general contractor rural to Chapter 802, subject to the 3 conditions listed. And it sounds, Jackie, as if 1 and 2 are really steps more than conditions. All right. With the added 4th condition, or maybe a 2nd condition, that Mr. Double agree that the property be used for storage and not for business operation. And said much better than that, I'm ever so sure.
I second that amendment.
All right, we've had a motion with a second. Director, when you get the opportunity, we would love to have a roll call.
Oh, no,
Yes.
I'm sorry. Oh, no, this is on the amendment, not on the ordinance itself, not on the,
Did you not second the motion?
I just want to clarify that I also want to address the stating who will reside there. But right now, we're voting on this amendment, not on the overall
No,
condition.
right now, this was a motion to approve the petition with the 3 conditions that were recommended by staff and a 4th to state that the business that resides on this property need to not use it for a general operations, including customers.
Right, and if it's not too late, I'm hoping I can say, business operator must record an affidavit to commit saying that an affiliate of the business will reside on the property.
Well, we will have to go back to the author of that motion. Are you willing to?
What is business owner defined as?
It's already defined.
Operator defined.
It's defined in 810 already, is it not? By an operator or a business owner? You just went through that.
Right now, the son is a project manager, so does he qualify as a business operator, as does his dad? I don't know that.
So the condition in the ordinance states that presence of a primary residence on the property is required, which they will have by placing part of the storage building as a residence. And then the second part of the sentence says, business owner slash operator must record an affidavit and commitment stating they will reside on the property full time. So I think the intent was either a business owner or a business operator, so someone involved in the business, must record an affidavit stating they will reside on the property full time. And I think the intent was that if you live there on the property full time and a neighbor has an issue with something that's going on, you would first and foremost also be their neighbor and business operator.
Mr. Loftman, the word "they" in recommended condition number 2 is referring back to the statute that of the affidavit that is saying they, which is defined as a business owner or operator. So that's already there.
With that understanding, I'm comfortable with the language as presented by the staff, and I'm ready to proceed to a vote without further concern about who's going to live there.
All right. Well, then your motion stands.
Stands.
And
Your second
And
stands.
my second stands.
All right.
There we go.
May we have a roll call, please?
Yes, so the motion is on CDU-24-2, which is the conditional use for general contractor rural to Chapter 802, with the conditions as follows. 1, the petitioner is to apply for a commercial site plan review and a land use certificate before commencing the use. 2, business operator must record an affidavit and commitment stating they will reside on the property full time. 3, the petitioner must meet the following requirements for their floodplain development permit number FP-24-11. A, elevation 737.5 feet is to be delineated on site with silt fence. B, no fill to be added into the floodplain until final grade process. C, any fill added below elevation contour 737.5 must comply with Chapter 808-5A11 compensatory storage requirements. And 4, that the property only be utilized as storage and not for business operations. A vote yes is a vote to approve with those conditions as stated. Pamela Davidson,
Yes.
Skip Daly,
Yes.
Guy Loftman,
Yes.
Dee Owens.
Yes.
Okay, motion is approved 4-0.
Mr. Double, thank you. Congratulations. And we look forward to your business continuing to go. All right. Coming up next, page 24 of the packets. Item number 2, variance 24-25, borer rear yard setback variance to Chapter 804. Mr. Myers, I understand you have a presentation for us.
Thank you. All right. So the borer rear yard setback variance, Chapter 804. It's located at 4610 North Loudon Road. It's in Richland Township, Section 16. The purpose of this request is a design standards variance to rear yard setback requirement of the estate residential zone. It's to install a 448 square foot pre-built residential cabin with a 192 square foot covered porch and a 280 square foot parking pad. Chapter 804 of the zoning ordinance requires a 35 foot rear yard setback for property zoned estate residential. The proposed location of the residential cabin measures approximately 25 feet from the eastern property line, which is the rear yard. The petitioner consulted their builder/contractor and determined moving the structure an additional 10 feet to the west to accommodate the setback is not possible due to the location of the existing septic field. And you'll be able to see that in Exhibit 4 within the packet. A bit of background here. The petitioner was issued a residential building permit in 2021 and an improvement location permit with that as well. Both of those permits expired from then until now. And the petitioner communicated to staff that it was due to some issues related to the COVID pandemic and other items that just didn't line up for their project to move forward. The petitioner applied for a new residential building permit in December 2023, and they do have an existing septic permit. I included the number there. No right-of-way activity permits, also known as driveway permits, are required due to an existing driveway cut on the property. And I will note that within the packet, you'll see parcel lines appear to be delineated differently depending on which map you're looking at. Maps generated through GIS, whether that be Elevate or ArcMap, those appear to be a little bit inaccurate. Staff referenced the deed language of the property in an attempt to provide a better representation of those property lines, and that can be seen in Exhibit 4, the petitioner site plan. Okay, here we have the location map and the site conditions map. The site conditions map is one of those GIS maps that you'll note that the parcel lines aren't quite as accurate as they could be, especially considering this structure on the southwest corner of the property. That's actually completely on the property, or the subject property. Here we have some site pictures. Here's the existing driveway cut. A gentle slope to the property. It's almost entirely buildable area that is under 25% slope. They are not in the eco area, which is the Lake Monroe watershed, and there's no designated floodplain on the property. Top left photograph is the approximate location that they will be placing the pre-built residential cabin. And in the bottom right photograph is an existing utility shed that is on the property. Here we have the letter that was submitted to the Board of Zoning Appeals via the petitioners, Earl and Carla Borer. And then on the right, we have the site conditions map that was staff assisted. The property lines do not represent survey. However, staff, like as I stated, used the deed language and was able to draw these lines in a little bit more accuracy for the purposes of this variance. As you'll note, a portion of the proposed structure could meet the 35-foot setback. That would be the southeast corner of the proposed structure. However, the northeast corner is measured at 25 feet, which needs to be 35 feet. Okay, that brings me to staff's recommendation, and Mr. Loftman pointed out to staff about the recommended motion that is found in the staff report. That is an error. It lists it as approval, but you'll note in the recommended motion section that is correct in that staff is recommending denial of the rear yard setback, stating that practical difficulties have not been met. The rear yard setback issue can be more effectively addressed through further redesign, relocation of the development, building, or structure. And to expand on that, if you look on the site conditions map, and the petitioner will state this as well, their preferred location with respect to the septic system is what is delineated on the site plan. And you'll note the location of the septic system prohibits them from moving an additional 10 feet. Septic separation distances per the state are 10 feet required. So there's nowhere to move it west. However, in the terms of the zoning ordinance, there are places elsewhere on the property that could be utilized to host the proposed structure. So that is the rationale behind staff's recommendation of denial, given that most of the property is buildable. With the terms of the zoning ordinance, there is another place that this structure could go. I will now take any questions.
Do we have any questions from the board to staff?
I wonder if staff has discussed moving the location of the structure with the petitioner?
Yes, so there has been communication with the petitioner from staff. In the early stages, staff communicated to them that there would likely or possibly be a recommendation of denial given the terms of the zoning ordinance, and that there would be, that rationale would be somewhere else suitable on the property. And I believe the petitioner at that meeting discussed that that is the location that they want the most. It fits best with their plans, specifically with regard to the driveway. Already circling around to that section, there was an old mobile home in that area before, and they like the configuration of the structure there with respect to all other things on the property.
Thank you.
Is the septic field already put in, or is that going to be added?
It is an existing, septic field.
Could you pull back and show us the proper, right, that view? Could you tell us again where the septic field is?
The green lines that you see there, those
Yes.
that is the approximate septic field.
And your recommendation of other buildable area is where?
So the recommendation isn't that there's a specific spot, but that there is plenty of buildable area located elsewhere on the property that in the terms of the zoning ordinance could feasibly be utilized without the need of a rear yard setback variance.
Thanks. Right. Any other questions from the board to staff?
As I'm looking at that on the right-hand side, is that a gravel lane, a road? What is that straight line on the right?
That is off the subject's property. I believe that is a neighbor's, possibly a neighbor's driveway. I cannot confirm that 100%.
And did you say that where they want to put this cabin is a former mobile home was there? So
Yes.
they're reusing a previously approved site, not approved, but previously used site for a mobile home. They're not going someplace different on the property, right?
Right. I don't believe that they're reusing the existing foundation if there is any existing foundation left from that prior mobile home. But the general area that you're seeing on the site conditions map is the general area that the mobile home once stood.
So obviously we can see the curb cut and driveway go back to their desired location. Is there other infrastructure that we should know about? Obviously, if there was a mobile home, I'm assuming there is utilities that are set to go back to that location. Is that correct?
I cannot confirm the exact location of those utilities, but it could be presumed that there are utility lines there based on the prior location of the manufactured home.
Okay, thanks.
And my last question, do we hear from the neighbors? Do we receive anything in writing from the neighbors that might be the owner of this driveway so close?
Staff did not receive any letters of support or opposition to this petition.
Thank you.
Ms. Owens?
Nothing from me, thank you.
Thank you. All right. If we could hear from the petition.
I'm sorry, one more. I'm now looking into the variance board. This was approved a couple of years ago. COVID happened, and now it's not approved. Am I right?
Yes, that is one interesting factor, that the petitioner did receive an approved building permit and improvement location permit in May of 2021. And the information that was provided on that site plan map did indicate that the setback, not the setback, the proposed location was identical. And it was missed that would have required a variance because of that rear yard setback requirement.
So that was granted in error, and we're trying to fix that error.
Correct. The permits did expire, so that does require a new permit application to be submitted. And then during that review period, that was when it was discovered the rear yard setback was an issue.
So had we not had a pandemic, they could have proceeded apparently based on the presentation, and they would have gone unnoticed.
How long do those permits last? Two years?
A residential building permit through the building department lasts 1 year. An improvement location permit through the planning department lasts 2 years. Those permits are issued concurrently after the same review from the respective departments.
Okay, so they didn't miss it by much. It was granted. Okay, never mind. I can do arithmetic badly. Thank you.
All right. At this point, could we please have the petitioner or representative come on up? Both plan to speak? Do you both plan to speak?
Oh, no.
Well, that's not on the
Okay.
record.
She will.
She will.
All right, if we could have you both sign in, please, and then when you're done signing in, make sure that microphone is the angle that works for you. And is it Mr. and Mrs. Bohr?
Yes.
Okay. You could also each raise your right hand and swear that the testimony that you're about to provide is the truth as you know it.
It will be. It'll be the
Yes,
truth.
sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. I guess the first thing I'd like to show you is this, which is the building permit that we were issued, which was approved at the time. And then it was probably our fault. We didn't realize because of the lapse in building the property off-site. And they ran into some problems during that COVID time. And in fact, the factory closed down. So that's basically the reason. They were on a 20-week delay. Well, I didn't want to order this and then have it show up on a site that I didn't have permits for. So I couldn't get everything to jive in conjunction with the permit. So by the time I went back and reordered this thing, they weren't able to get it in with that in that 1 year period of time. I didn't realize that I only had a year. So when I went back in to ask for a extension, then I was told that I had to go through this process. Well, everything that I'm requesting had already been approved with that 25-foot setback exception. When they got to looking at it closer at my original drawings, they noticed that one of them was 25 feet and not 35. So that's the reason I'm here. My wife and I purchased this 1.5 acres just because our grandkids live down here. We live out by Fort Wayne. So we're wanting this log cabin, which it's the cutest thing you ever saw, but anyhow, just to have some place to have the kids and 1.5 acres, they can have cookouts and stuff like that. So that's basically the reason we're doing that. I noticed they say that there are other places on the property for the location. Let's just say that there's less than a 10% grade on this property, which one of the photographs that I believe Drew took shows the view from that what would be the southeast corner overlooking that property. And it's just a beautiful view. But with those fingers of the septic, the existing, this was all existing. The septic, the electrical, the water is all there from the previous mobile home that was in terrible condition, and I wouldn't buy it unless they removed all that. So I've spent a lot of money upgrading this property with the driveway, the existing driveway, I just graveled it and stuff like that. The next door neighbor is Rich Grimes. I don't know if that's familiar. He builds swimming pools. He's become a good friend of mine. And I do have a letter from him of approval. He said, I'll do anything I can to help you. That separation of the back there on the eastern property, it's not just a fence row, it's more of a hedge. He has 5-acre lots behind his property, and that's what that existing road that you mentioned. From my property to his, it's raised approximately 4 feet. You wouldn't want to try to walk across it, I'll put it that way. But one of his kids is building a home at the back of that property, and that's why he put that road in. I think that leaves him with 2 more existing lots back there. So once again, I do have a letter from him, and another neighbor called, texted me, who I don't know, because there was 6 neighbors that we had to send those letters to. And I've heard from 2 of them that are affected by this. And both of them said, we'll do anything we can to help you. So I think they know I'm trying to improve the property and I want to make it look nice. The reason I can't, those septic fingers are preventing me from putting this any other location than where it is. I know it's only 10 feet, but what if you can imagine a triangle, which is where I'm stuck in, that 10 feet on the east forces me to go 15 feet to the south. Well, if I do that, then I'm getting into my driveway. There's beautiful, mature trees that I'd have to remove to put this there. And I don't want to do that. It would ruin it. Drew said that I could put it below those fingers, which would require a pumping station. And we're just getting, for the purpose that we have for this, it's getting to be an exorbitant amount. And it's expensive enough the way it is. So I'm probably going into more detail than what you wanted to hear. But if you have any questions, I guess. What? Did I forget anything?
Well, okay. If you guys are done, I do have a question for you. Can you describe real quickly for me the chronology of time? So you purchased this property before or after permits for the building? You purchased the property before.
With the intent.
With the intent. And then you got the building permits. And then you said this home is being made off-site?
Yes.
So was there a financial investment made purchasing this home that was being built off-site after you got the building permits?
As far as a down payment or something, yes.
Okay. So while this was approved, although in error, you made a financial investment and for this location in addition to utility work and infrastructure improvements. Is that correct? All right. Thank you.
May I ask how big that cute little log cabin is?
14 by 32.
14 by 32, and it's going to have a garage too. Is that right?
Not at this time. All I'm putting initially is a pad to park a car there. I don't expect to put anything extravagant there, like a garage or anything like that. At our age, it doesn't make much sense to do that. We don't live here permanently, even though we're here every weekend for baseball or something. The grandkids is the only reason we're doing this. But we live up by Fort Wayne, so that's the reason. At this point in time, I can't imagine a garage being put on site, but a pad to park on, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your testimony. We will open this up to anybody that wishes to speak on. Actually, before we do that, while we're doing that, sir, you said you had a letter of support. Would you like to offer that into evidence?
From Mr. Grimes.
How about if you go ahead and present?
Okay.
And while that's happening, do we have anybody online that wishes to speak in favor of this petition? Seeing no one, do we have anybody in the audience that would like to speak on behalf of this petition? Seeing no one, anyone online wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one, anybody in the audience wishing to oppose this petition? All right, let's open this up to some board discussion. Mr. Loftman, you have some questions, I'm sure.
I really have an attitude more than questions. And my attitude is that this seems like pretty, I'm very sympathetic to this because they've proceeded and invested on the understanding that this was going to be allowed, and now it turns out there's a problem, and I hate to move the goalpost that they have to meet.
And they did make the comment that the utilities are already pre-existing in that location, meaning a lesser cost, not having to create new utility avenues.
I certainly see
Well, the matter for the board, as I see it, is economic and financial hardship, and that is pretty clearly defined. There are technically other places on that property. However, it doesn't seem feasible, and considering the county's error several years back and the financial investment that was made since then on this location, including the purchase of this home that is set for design for this exact location, I would consider that qualification of our criterion on financial hardship.
I'm going to move that we accept variance 24-25, the Borer rear yard setback variance to chapter 804. Due to
Fulfilling all the criteria.
fulfilling all the criteria enumerated,
Including the financial hardship.
including the financial hardship. Thank you so much.
A second.
Was that a second, Ms. Owens?
Yes, sir.
All right, can we take a roll?
It's been moved and seconded to approve VAR-24-25. A vote in favor is a vote to approve the rear yard setback as noted in the petitioner's site plan as shown in the packet. A vote yes is to approve. Skip Daly?
Yes.
Guy Loftman?
yes.
Dee Owens?
Yes.
Pamela Davidson?
Yes.
Right, the motion is approved 4-0.
Congratulations. Your grandkids appreciate you, I'm sure.
We appreciate your time and good luck on the rest of your project. All right, we're going to skip number 3 as per our earlier motion. So we're going to hop over to page 48 in the packet. Oh, no, hold on. Yes, number 48 in the packet, variance 24-27A and variance 24-27B, Winters, minimum lot size, variance to chapter 804, and the lot width variance to chapter 804. Mr. Smith, good to see you. Could we please have a presentation from you?
Sure. Okay, so as previously stated, there are 3 variance requests for this petition, one being minimum lot size, one being minimum lot width, and then one being an Eco Area 1 variance, Chapter 825, and this would encompass a 1-acre contiguous 12% slope, minimum lake frontage, and residential density maximum. So the purpose is to construct a roughly 115 square foot spa addition to the existing back deck on a 0.61 acre parcel. So Chapter 804 calls for a minimum lot size of 5 acres for the Forest Reserve Zone and a minimum lot width of 200 feet. Chapter 825 calls for a minimum lake frontage of 300 feet for properties that are fronting Lake Monroe. Also calls for a 1 acre of 12% or less contiguous slope, and also a residential density maximum of 1 unit per 5 acres. This came about when the petitioners applied for a swimming pool and spa permit through the building department. Their permit number is R-24-392, which is currently on hold pending approval of the variance request. So on the screen, we have the site conditions and parcel size maps. You'll note that for the parcel size map, this is an illustration depicting all of the lots in this area that do not meet the acreage requirement for this zone. So essentially, this property along with the adjacent properties are all considered non-conforming according to the current ordinance. And then these are some site photos. This is the petitioner's letter addressed to the Board of Zoning Appeals, which is also in the packet. And I'm happy to come back to the screen if needed. This is the petitioner's plot plan, and then I highlighted in yellow the location of where the spa is going. And then this was submitted by the petitioners as well as to give an illustration of what it is. So this leads us to staff's recommendation, which is to approve all variances based on the fact that practical difficulties have been demonstrated. This lot does not meet minimum lot size or width of the FR zone. It also does not conform to the Eco 1 requirements. So therefore, construction of any kind is not possible without variance approval or seeking a lot line shift with an adjacent property, which, as we noted from the parcel size map, it would not appear possible because none of the adjacent lots are conforming as well. So, any questions?
I don't think so. All right, let's go ahead and bring up the petitioner or a representative of the petitioner. Thanks for being here.
Yep.
If you could please make sure you sign yourselves in. And may I assume you are Mr. and Mrs. Winters?
Yes.
Fantastic. I will need, get you both signed. And Mr. Winters, could you speak your name into the microphone?
Rachel Winters.
And?
Mark Winters.
All right, thank you. And could you both raise your right hand and swear that the testimony that you will provide us tonight is the truth as you know it? Fantastic. All right, whichever one of you would like to talk to us about your hot tub.
Well, we want a hot tub. We got 19 grandchildren.
Motion
I was born and raised here in Bloomington. We moved away, and she was also raised here in Bloomington, not born, but we went to school all the way through IU, the whole 9 yards, came back, got our little retirement nest back here, and we got 19 grandkids, and we need, it's a pretty modest house, and we need a little more areas to shove them into and activities to put them in. But also we're trying to, take care of our health. And this spa allows us to swim in there in place. And we can do that like 10 months. They say 12, but if we get 10 months out of it, we'll be very happy. So that's what we want to do.
And this is the house you reside in?
Pardon me?
This is the home you reside in, you live in?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. I don't have anything, Ms. Owens. You have any questions? They're gonna
Nothing for me. Thank you.
all right. I assume they're going to yield most of their 15 minutes and leave us with that. All right. At this point, you guys want to have a quick seat, and we'll see if there's anybody that would like to support this, either online or in person. Seeing no one, is there anybody that wishes to oppose their spa petition, online or in person? Seeing no one, is there any board discussion needed?
Those people need a spa.
90 grandkids. It seems like all the lot sizes are way under what we require. And so the practical difficulties are all over this place, that there's no way to use the property without variances.
Everyone needs to be within 40 feet of 104 degree water. So, do I have a motion?
I move to approve, oops. Sorry. I'll get there.
Okay.
Maybe you need that.
To approve variances 24-7A, B, and C, minimum lot size, minimum lot width, and Eco 1 requirement for the real estate, subject real estate, on the grounds that there are practical difficulties that have been demonstrated. The lot does not meet minimum side requirements, does not conform to Eco 1, so construction is not possible without variance approval or seeking a lot line shift with an adjacent property owner, which is always a very difficult thing to do. And so I think they've met the requirements for the...
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, roll call, please, Madam Director.
Sure. It's been moved and seconded to approve VAR-24-27A, 27B, and 27C. That's minimum lot size, lot width to Chapter 804, and the Eco Area 1 provisions to Chapter 825. A vote yes is a vote to approve all three variances. Guy Loftman,
Yes.
Dee Owens,
Yes.
Pamela Davidson,
Yes.
Skip Daly.
Enjoy your spa, yes.
Okay, motion is approved 4-0.
And I didn't ask this question, Mr. and Mrs. Winters, but I assume no neighbor complained because they want to be invited over. Would that be a correct assumption? Yes, good neighbors go a long way. Congratulations.
All right, moving along. Let's see, we've got item numbers 7 and 8, page 58 if you're following along. Variance 24-28A and B, Hammond's minimum lot size variance to Chapter 804 and the Hammond's Eco Area 1 minimum lake frontage residential density maximum variance to Chapter 825. Mr. Smith, you're with us again. Have at it.
And my error, it's the Eco 1 area will pertain to the 1 acre contiguous 12% slope instead of the minimum lake frontage as they meet that requirement. So just wanted to clarify before proceeding.
Okay, thanks.
So the purpose for this request is to construct an approximate 7,061 square foot addition to the existing primary residence on a 1.3 acre lot in the FR zone. This proposal will include adding a basement, an attached garage, a first floor expansion, and a second story to the home. The property currently has a pre-existing residence on the property that predates the current zoning ordinance. Similar to the previous petition, Chapter 804 calls for a minimum lot size of 5 acres for the Forest Reserve Zone, as well as Chapter 825 calling for a 1 acre of 12% or less contiguous slope and a residential density maximum of 1 unit per 5 acres. So the petitioner did apply for a new residential building permit, and that is R-24-440, which requires these variances before proceeding. So you might recognize this map from the previous petition, but essentially in the same area and also the same situation where the property does not conform to the lot size of the zone, nor do the neighboring properties. So they're neighbors. So these are some site photos of the property. This is the petitioner's letter as well as the owner's consent. These are also in the staff packet, and I'm happy to come back to them if need be. This is the petitioner's certified plot plan that they received from Deckard Land Surveying. So essentially what we've got here is they've got the existing house and then all of the shaded in gray areas. That is what's being added. So that's what's being proposed to the existing residents, as well as the porch area.
Which is the porch area?
It's outlined in green.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Did you say the addition is 7,600 square feet?
7,061 square feet, but that is also encompassing the second floor addition.
I see.
And then this is just a snippet of the petitioner's construction plans that were also submitted to staff, just to give a visual representation of what's being proposed.
Thank you.
So this leads me to staff's recommendation. The first being to approve the minimum lot size variance. Practical difficulties have been demonstrated. There would be no lot line shift accordingly because the adjacent property owners also don't meet the minimum lot size. So essentially you can't do anything unless you get a minimum lot size variance from that requirement. And then also to approve the Eco 1 variance, the 1 acre of contiguous 12% slope and the residential density maximum requirement, with one condition that the petitioner's representative or the owner, whomever, probably the builders, install silt fencing and contact the planning department for an inspection prior to construction under their residential building permit R-24-440, and that is simply because they front Lake Monroe, so we want to be sure that they are exercising best management practices.
All right, and as always, I ask if you had the opportunity to discuss that recommended condition with the petitioner?
Not with the petitioners directly, but I've mostly been in contact with their builder.
Okay, and they seem thumbs up on it? Okay, great. All right, thank you for that. Any questions from the board of Mr. Smith? All right. Ms. Owens, I can't see one way or the
Nope.
other.
Thank you.
All right.
And I assume we've heard from no neighbors, thumbs up, thumbs down.
We have not received any for or against
All right.
response.
Thank you.
Are the Hammonds or their representative is making the way down the aisle? And, Mr. Bruce, you've been here before. Go ahead and sign in. You know what to do. And when you're done with that, go ahead and adjust that microphone for yourself. Speak your name into the microphone and give me that right hand and let me know that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth as you know it.
Doug Bruce, I do.
So be it. 15 minutes on the clock. Ticking away. It's yours.
Okay, normally for me, 15 minutes wouldn't be enough. As my friends would say, I talk too much, so I will keep this short. A couple of things. My clients are online as well, but they're having some technical difficulties, so I don't think they were going to speak anyway. Just like the petition before, there's some great houses in this neighborhood that kind of pre-exist the current FR zone of the 5 acres. This is clients that have had this house and it's been their dream home to retire to from Northern Indiana, and that's what they're going to do with this house now is move here and make it their forever home. The lot is probably one of the least amount of slope lots that you'll see around the lake to build on, actually. We are meeting all of the setbacks. It's going to be a beautiful home, and I just thank you for your time and staff's time in putting the report together. Thank you.
All right, before we open this up for any other questions that they might have of you, the silt fencing and the discussing through planning, you're aware and you're good to go on that?
Yeah, it's pretty basic with almost every building permit. You're going to need erosion control measures, and we've got really good erosion control fence and straw bales and all that. So I don't think you could build anything without it anymore.
Awesome. Any other questions from the board, Mr. Bruce?
Will the existing house be built around? This is an addition onto how old is the old house?
The existing house is an A-frame cabin, sort of, that has a really large porch and I think a loft upstairs and 1 bedroom in a neighborhood of some really nice homes. And a matter of fact, the previous client I spoke to when I was down there putting the sign out, and they were putting their sign out as well. So this house would be morphed around. We're leaving the main structure because it has a beautiful fireplace in it, so we're keeping that fireplace as part of this, but it's just not functional for a family to live in. It's a good vacation cottage, but it's not a very energy efficient or large enough house for a family.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions of the petitioner's representative? Seeing none, you can go ahead and have a seat, and we will see if there's anybody that wishes to speak on behalf of this, either online or in person. Seeing no one, anyone wishing to oppose this, either online or in person? All right. It does not look like we have anything else other than some discussion among the board.
It's deja vu all over again. It seems that this is good for everybody, good for the community, good for the neighbors, good for the property, and
we like having people move here from Northern Indiana. I'm going to move that we approve variance 24-28A and variance 24-28B. The A is about the minimum lot size variance to Chapter 804, and B is the Eco Area 1 minimum lake frontage residential density maximum variance to Chapter 825. And it's because of practical difficulties, just like we've had in this area before, and the enumerated standards.
A second.
Okay, subject to the conditions, excuse me.
Right.
I'm so glad you
Yes.
said that, Guy. Subject to the, there are 2 conditions listed?
one condition.
One.
One condition, and that is to install silt fencing and that they get their inspection based on Romeo 24-440.
Yeah, and tell the plan department before they begin construction, have them inspect it.
All right, I heard a second from Ms. Owens, so we can take a roll.
This is on VAR-24-28A, minimum lot size to Chapter 804, and VAR-24-28B. I do want to just clarify, it's for the 1 acre contiguous encroachment in the 12% slope, and then the residential density maximum. The agenda was listed incorrect in saying minimum lake frontage. They do meet that standard, but
thank-
assuming
Yes.
that still stands.
Thank you so much.
Mr.
Thank
Smith
you.
caught us on the front end with that.
Yes.
Yes, sorry
Okay.
about that.
That's okay. So this is a move and a second to approve both A and B with the conditions stated in the staff report that states that the petitioner shall install silt fencing and contact the planning department for an inspection prior to construction under the residential building permit R-24-61. A vote yes, sorry. 440. R-24-440. Apologies. A vote yes is a vote to approve both variances with that listed condition. Dee Owens,
Yes.
Pamela Davidson,
Yes.
Skip Daly,
Yes.
Guy Loftman.
Yes.
Motion is approved 4-0.
All right, Mr. Bruce, thank you, and provide our congratulations to your clients, and good luck with the project. All right, let's go ahead and move on. We are on items 9 and 10. We're gonna jump up to page 74 if you're following along. Variance 24-29 Alpha and variance 24-29 Bravo. Bodie Eco Area 1, variance to Chapter 825, and Bodie Eco Area 1, variance to Chapter 25. One is the 1 acre contiguous 12% slope residential density maximum, and the other is a 12% slope encroachment. Mr. Smith, look at that. You've got us again here. We've got your attention.
Okay. So the purpose so this is technically one Eco 1 variance, and then I'll explain why we separated it at the end. But the purpose is to construct an approximate 455 square foot in-ground pool on a 2.71 acre lot in the SR zone. So Chapter 825 calls for 1 acre of 12% or less contiguous slope. It limits land disturbance to 12% slope and has a residential density maximum of 1 unit per 5 acres. The petitioner has applied for a new residential building permit, which is actually a swimming pool permit, R-24-449, which requires these variances before proceeding. This is the site conditions and location map. So we are on a different side of Lake Monroe this time. So specifically, this property, which is outlined in yellow, this map represents the environmental constraints overlay, also known as the Lake Monroe watershed. And we have Area 1, which is known as Eco 1, and then I also have Area 2. So they didn't quite meet the Area 2 standard, so they are held to the Eco 1 standards of the watershed area. And then these are some site photos, approximately of where the swimming pool is being proposed. These are the petitioner letters and also the owner consent letter. And like the previous petitions, I'm happy to come back to this slide if the board would like to review it, but it is also in the packet. This is just a snippet of the petitioner's plot plan. They have delineated where the house is, and then this blue rectangular area is the approximate location of where the proposed swimming pool is to go, if they receive variance approval. And this is just some, like the proposed layout, so it's just a diagram of what the pool would look like. For this petition, staff did receive 2 letters of support from what appears to be neighboring property owners. I can leave this up here for just a little bit, just because they are letters of support. So. So staff is recommending 2 separate recommendations. So the first one would be to approve the Eco 1 variance of the 1 acre of contiguous 12% slope and the residential density maximum requirements. Given that practical difficulties have been demonstrated, so even though this property does meet the minimum lot size requirements of its zone, because it's in Eco 1, it is held to that 5-acre standard for residential maximum of 1 unit per 5 acres. And then as well as the property cannot meet the 1 acre of contiguous 12% slope requirement, which would prevent the owners from further developing the property as it is. However, staff recommends denial of the 12% slope encroachment, given that there's nothing in our ordinance that would enable staff to be able to support a 12% slope disturbance in the Eco 1 area, given that the petitioners could technically relocate the pool to an area of the property that does not encroach into 12% slope. So that is the sole justification for the recommendation there.
Are the criterion the same for the board?
Like,
So you're saying that the criteria, because we're splitting out one section of 825, whether you could vote yes on certain parts of 825 and no on the other?
Right. So staff could not recommend the second half. You could not recommend Bravo, but you did recommend Alpha. Don't those have the same criterion for us to make a determination?
So they do have the same criteria under 812, but I think that in reviewing each one of those standards under 825, you could see that some of those some of those ordinance provisions are being met under those same standards and some are not. So for instance, the 1 residential unit per 5 acres, if there's no possible way for them to obtain or have 5 acres, but they're pre-existing legal lot of record, we would recommend approval.
Sure.
However, the pool itself is movable, right? It's a design location. So it's not the whole site is not 12% slope restricted. And so they could move the pool and no longer need that part of the ordinance or that part of the variance. Does that make sense?
All right. So what we're really looking for at this point in terms of an approval is for them to explain why they have to have that pool that size in that location.
Yes.
Hint, hint. All right.
I was going to ask, I know from a previous case, you do not say, oh, you could place it here, but a pool is often, you know, very close to a house and a bathroom and a refrigerator and all those things. So, and the property is just over an acre, right? Just over an acre. So I wonder if maybe we should look at that picture again.
Yeah, the slope
to
map.
see if there's.
Is the entire, you said there's somewhere, okay, so we're looking at the top right?
yes.
All right.
So
And-
all the areas that are in red depict, at least according to our GIS data, depict 12% or more slope.
Which way is the house facing?
So this is directionally north. So you're looking at it from that end, that aspect.
So the entire backyard is in the 12%. So when you said that the recommendation of denial is that there's other buildable place, their pool could conceivably be in the front yard.
It could be in the front or it could be in the side.
All right, fair enough. Any other questions of staff? Ms. Owens?
No, thank you.
All right, let's invite the petitioners or representatives up here. You've been following along, you know the drill, I'm sure.
Yes, sir.
Exactly. Could you go ahead and state your name for the record in the microphone?
Greg Bodie.
All right, Mr. Bodie, could you go ahead and, yeah, there you go. Do you swear that your testimony is the truth as you know it?
Most definitely.
Fantastic.
100%.
Okay, fantastic. Let's go ahead and give you 15 minutes, although you don't have to take that long. Go ahead.
Appreciate that. First of all, thank you, board, for being here and what you do for Monroe County. Sean, you've been great to work with. Our builders have sung your praises, so thank you very much. Here to make my family happy, and that's the number one goal. We are requesting this variance, something that's been a long time coming since COVID. We found that having a swimming pool, one of those pop-up swimming pools, brought joy to our family. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I have 2 daughters, 11 and 8, and we are requesting a pool. And what I say here is the place that we are requesting this pool, yes, it could be put in other places. But as an educator, the number one priority of my kids and all kids is safety. The placement of the pool is where we can see it. It's visible. It's close to the house. It's in the back of the house. That is the purpose of the placement of the pool. We've been working with Pools by Sturgeon, who has been very thorough, very dedicated, and have the integrity of Lake Monroe being in the watershed and the forefront of their minds. So we've had multiple discussions about that with the silt fence. So we feel like we're crossing all our T's and dotting all our I's, and we're just asking, and yes, it does need to be close to a fridge. So that is why I'm here, and I hope that you could grace my family with this to move forward with this procedure.
We appreciate your energy and you're getting to the point. And are there any questions of Mr. Bodie from members of the board?
You've worked with a pool company, you're saying, on design.
Yes, ma'am, they're here.
Hello, pool company.
They're amazing.
Yes. How do they deal with slope like that? Because when we looked at the picture of your backyard, it seemed to go down pretty precipitously.
And that picture, it's not that bad. It really isn't, right?
On the angle.
Yeah, it's the angle, right? So the silt fence, he talked construction language to us. We feel confident. We feel that we're doing the right way. There are 6 pools on our street. Just east of us, southeast of us, our neighbors put a pool in 3 years ago, in-ground pool, with the exact same slope, smaller yard, and they were approved as well. But again, there's 6 other pools on our street.
Wow.
All right, any other questions that we have?
Is the pool going to be pretty close to the back of the house, so it's going to hug the house more than go down the hill?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Smith, can you go ahead and throw up the one with the little blue square that was labeled pool? There we go. Does that help you?
It's hard to see from there where the slope is, but if I can see the back of the house. And I see HOUSE, it says that right there.
If you could go back to the pictures of the house and the deck, the plans are right off these steps.
Uh-huh.
And steps down to it with a retaining wall.
Close to the refrigerator.
Correct.
All right. Any other questions for the petitioner?
Not I.
All right. Why don't you go ahead and have a seat here, stick close, if you will, and we'll open this up to anybody online or anybody in person that wishes to support this project. All right, we already have your letters in the files, so that's good. Is there anybody online or in person that wishes to oppose this project? Speak now or forever hold your peace. All right, any board discussion?
Seems like a good idea to me.
Those are good ideas. All right. Well, you've accomplished in terms of satisfying the environmental impact on our two harshest environmental supporters. So, any other discussion, Ms. Owens?
No, thank you, sir.
All right. Do we have any suggested motions?
Yeah, let me get back to my, I move approval of variances 24-29 and 24-29B because the 1 acre contiguous, the first one is 24A is the conditions of the density of this old subdivision require any change to have this one. And in terms of the pool, they're putting the if they're going to have a pool, Mr. Bodie has said, and I think it makes perfectly good sense, you want it where you can keep an eye on the kids. And this is the location that will surely give the most ability to keep the kids in the pool and the old folks who swim there too, as safe as possible. And I think those practical difficulties have been adequately addressed. So I'm suggesting, I'm moving that we approve both 29A and 29B.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded a couple times, I believe. Director, if you will.
Okay, the motion is for VAR-24-29A, the Eco 1 area 1 acre contiguous and residential density maximum, and 24-29B, which is the Eco area 1 12% slope encroachment, both to chapter 825. The motion is together, so a vote yes is a vote to approve 29A and 29B. D. Owens,
Yes.
Pamela Davidson,
Yes.
Skip Daly,
Yes.
Guy Loftman.
Yes.
Okay, the motion is approved, 4-0.
Congratulations.
Jackie,
Let us know when the party is.
the conditions on something like that are very standard. The silt fence he referred to and everything else, we don't need to add that because they're not listed expressly here, correct?
We do require silt fencing on any construction project, and we will reiterate that during the process of the building permit. The condition that we added on some of the other ones was that we would go ahead and review that silt fencing was installed prior to any construction activity. Sometimes that silt fencing gets added a little bit late, so we just like to double check that it's added in time. But if the petitioner wants to put that up and send us a photo under the application of the building permit, we would appreciate that as voluntary.
All right.
Thank you.
Voluntary, but all right. Get it done. Let's, look at that. We're moving along. Page 89 in your packets. Item number 11, variance 24-30. Ryder, Eco, Area 1, 12% slope, variance to Chapter 825. A lot of that tonight. It's a popular one. Ms. Crecilius or subbing?
Yes, Ann's going to be presenting this one from online.
Oh, great. All right, Ms. Crecilius, we appreciate you online here. Let's go ahead and get this presentation on the way.
Great, thank you. So we have a variance from the Eco 1 12% slope from Chapter 825. I've had many tonight. So we are looking, the petition site is located in Clear Creek Township, Section 14. That's correct, incorrect. Salt Creek Township, there we go, Section 14. So this is the 74.81 acre property that is accessible through Brown County. So it's pretty far out there. So the petition request, as you can see the site, it's a very large site. It's made up of 2 tax parcels with minimal area that is 12% or under. So, you know what, I'm not gonna read this. I think we're all very familiar about the maximum land slope of 12% for the construction of buildings and driveways as protected in our watershed. So this map is a site conditions map that's zoomed in on the area that is buildable. We're looking at about 1.3 acres. That would be the area that is not in red on the map and on your screen. So the petitioner is proposing a single-family residential dwelling that's located partially on grades that exceed 12% slope. The petitioner's letter is currently on screen stating their request for this variance. Here is the site plan that's been provided, and I'm going to go through a few more illustrations that point out with colors what we're looking at a little better. So we're looking at that area of buildable, and right now the 2 structures on the screen, the yellow is the proposed home, and the orange is the proposed septic field. So the majority of the components for a single family home are located on slopes greater than 12%. The area in red is that 1.3 acres of area that is buildable. So we're kind of highlighting here where they're proposing to build. So they do have 1.29 acres or 1.3 area. They are proposing a home that is approximately 5,000 square feet. And of that footprint, the majority of the home is on slopes greater than 12%. There's 56,000 square feet of buildable area, and therefore staff does not see that the practical difficulty criteria under Chapter 812 is being met. The petitioner has provided no evidence of practical difficulty, but shows a preference for the location at the narrowest portion of the ridge on the site. I'm going to go through a few photos. So before, okay, so just the first photo here that we're gonna see is Gilmore Ridge Road. So we're pretty far out there, like I said, accessible only through Brown County. The property, Gilmore Ridge, does dead end into the lake. Before Monroe Lake Reservoir, Gilmore Ridge Road would have gone down to the bottom of the valley and connected likely to the Pine Grove area. So this is a pretty small county road at this point with only 2 houses at the end of Gilmore Ridge. Because the site is so large, it does kind of knock our scale back a little bit, but this is the entrance of the existing driveway. It is quite wooded, so we're not even viewing the buildable. This is a part of the buildable area, but only a small portion of it. So just a note, the current property owner did purchase the property in 2023, and the property was logged under a logging permit in 2020. The area where the proposed dwelling would be located, where they're proposing to locate it, appears to be an area that has been logged. No stumps were found in this area of the proposed dwelling home, though the aerials prior to the logging activity do show dense tree cover in this area. Logging to create a view of the lake is prohibited under Chapter 825. As we know, Chapter 825 prohibits that land disturbance on slopes greater than 12% and the removal of the vegetation, but does not necessarily count towards agricultural or mineral extraction like the extraction of forestry. The existing buildable area is further from the lake. The logging permit appears to have showed a skid trail in the area of one of the swaths. So I'll stop here. On your screen currently is the petitioner's site plan with 2 yellow lines showing. We will see a few photos of these in a moment. The western swath has an existing overhead power line, and the right swath is new under the 2020 logging permit. So it does seem advantageous that they're kind of using those areas that were logged in 2020. The buildable area where staff is recommending that the building site be relocated to is the site of the log yard that was used in 2020. And just as a reminder to bring this up, that state statute limits our ability to regulate logging in the Lake Monroe watershed outside of urban areas. So site visit photos on your screen. Looking to the northwest, standing on the existing driveway, we're looking at slopes under 12%, and it's hard to tell, but towards the horizon, you can see it's drop off and slope down. The proposed dwelling site is 110 feet further to the northwest, and you can kind of view those 2 swaths that we saw illustrated, one on the left and one on the right in the middle of your screen. So again, we're looking northwest with the proposed dwelling area visible in the background of the photo kind of to the right. There is that existing overhead power line, which you can see running from the top left of the photo down. And that area of the power line has exhibited a cleared swath in the past on aerial imagery. So here we're looking northwest on slopes greater than 12% at a swath cleared under the 2020 logging permit. So that is a new swath. A closer look at, you can tell there are some survey stakes in the middle of the photo. So here we would be outlining some of the edges of where the proposed home would go. We're looking again northwest, just another area of cleared. So staff is recommending denial for the Ryder Eco Area 1 variance from Chapter 825 with the following reasoning: that the petitioner could relocate the proposed structure and necessary components to the southeast and be fully located on slopes under 12% and remove the need for a variance. The petitioner is unable to prove practical difficulties, specifically Part C of the definition that states a significant development limitation that cannot be reasonably addressed through the redesign or relocation of the development building structures existing or proposed. Does the board have any questions?
I would like for you to bring back up for us on the screen the image that you had, the outline in red of area that would be buildable. Right. And you said the home is approximately 5,000 square feet? Single?
That's correct.
Is it single level?
Yes. Oh, I'm unsure. They have not set on a footprint, so we do not have a building permit for this request. They have not settled on a design. So that is would be a relevant question to know.
Now, I do have some questions on here. I'm trying to understand that the first time you brought this up, it looked to me like those 12% waves carried on into the red area that you described as buildable. Am I just wrong in that, or?
I'm not quite sure I understood your question.
All right, so everything inside red is what you said is buildable without the need of a variance. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. Thank you.
All right. However, there are the 12-degree slope squiggly lines that are inside of that red area.
Those contour lines are spaced far enough apart that they are under 12% slope.
Okay.
So the surveyor has delineated the slope using a dashed line, which is somewhat hard to see. So the contour lines are spaced apart far enough that they are meeting the 12%. You can kind of see that they get closer together, meaning they get steeper the farther away from that kind of boundary box of area that's considered buildable.
Okay, so the distance between the lines is how this map is read?
Yes, the percentage of slope is calculated across a 50-foot fall.
All right, can you tell me the slope of the area that is in yellow to the top left?
Greater than 12%.
Less than 15?
Less than 15.
And the area within the red is less than 12?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
My question is, did the petitioners give a reason for why they are married to this location versus anywhere else that don't violate the slope problems?
They have not. The petitioner's letter was simply stated the request with no reasoning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm looking at the yellow, at the same drawing here. There's a sort of a long tail that comes down into the 12%. There's an L-shaped, and then there's that. What is that? You know what I mean by the tail, that comes down?
Yes.
To the,
They've labeled that as a proposed driveway. So it appears they plan to possibly keep the existing driveway as it is, kind of oval shaped, and then have an even further driveway off of that.
It connects to the existing drive, and that's why that comes down and it's a driveway. Makes sense. Now I get it.
All right, any other questions of staff? Seeing no one, let's go ahead and bring our petitioner up. Thanks for being here. And just like everyone else, if you could adjust that microphone for yourself and to speak your name.
Yes, my name is Todd Borgman with Smith Design Group.
Last name again, sir?
Borgman.
Boardman?
Borgman.
Okay. Ms. Borgman, if you could, there you go. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you know it?
Yes.
Fantastic. We're going to give you 15 minutes. Go ahead and set that clock for me, please. And go ahead.
Okay. I promise I will not take all 15 minutes. A couple things. I did late this afternoon try to give Ann another sketch of what what my clients are, and they can speak to it. They're here as well. If I can enter this into evidence. What this shows is this is the house of.
Todd, if you could explain it into the mic, sorry, and then yeah.
Okay. So what this shows is.
Thank you.
This shows the house here, which is here. If we take the same house footprint and put it inside the 12% slope, you'll see that, as Ann says, it's 110 feet closer to the road, which they want to be private. They want more privacy. They want it farther off the road. It also puts it underneath the power line, which no one wants to build a house underneath the power line. So that is two reasons why they want to move it back inside the 15% slope. The other reason is as Ann pointed out, they want to take advantage of the trees that have already been taken out by the logging. So that way the trees are already removed. They won't be damaging any more trees. Also, because of the logging with the yellow shape that Ann showed, there's a nice view going down to the lake, which living on the lake, that is what everyone would like to have. Also, the 12% slope, if they were in equal area 2 or anywhere else in the country or anywhere else in the county, the 12% slope would not matter. Because they are in the lake watershed, the 12% eco area 1, it matters. I would like to point out that at the closest point, they're going to be roughly 600 to 700 feet from the water. And I know that the eco areas in there is protect the water. 600 to 700 feet is a very long ways away, especially looking at petitions that we've seen previously tonight where some people are much closer than that. And lastly, as far as the size of the house, I know speaking to the clients, we showed a 5,000 square foot footprint because we wanted to overestimate the area that would be impacted. Talking to them this evening, they're looking at more at 3,000 to 3,500 square feet. And I will let them, talk more about that. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you.
All right, we'll look that over real quick. Do you have any questions?
Let me have that back when you both look.
Yes. There's two different boxes here. There's an upper and a lower box.
This is the proposed.
This is the
and
proposed.
This is where he said if
Within
it was
12%.
within that red area,
Uh-huh.
that's where it would be. And it would be a lot closer to the road.
I see.
And, okay, overhead OHW is the overhead power line.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, that's what I wasn't clear. Okay. Okay, and we'll add this to the record, I assume.
Right.
So I've got a question for Mr. Borgman, if I may. Would, in that alternate location you showed, would it literally be under the power line?
Yes, in order to get that footprint in there entirely inside the 12% slope, it would go underneath the power lines.
Or at least at that location?
Hold on for a second. Point of order, if you will. Are the two of you wishing to speak? And you guys are the petitioners? All right, then we're actually going to have to put questions on hold and couple their time with the time you had to keep it under the 15 minutes. So if you could go ahead and sign your names in real quick, or whoever's going to speak. Sir, will you also be speaking on behalf of yourself?
Ask me a question.
Well, we can ask you a question after, perhaps. If we do, you can sign in then. All right. Can I get you to raise your right hand and speak into the mic? Tell us your name.
I'm Jennifer Ryder.
Okay, Ms. Ryder, do you swear that your testimony is the truth as you know it?
I do.
All right. We'll go ahead and give you 8 minutes for lack of knowing where you finished up. So go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, Todd did cover a few of our points already, so that's very helpful. So I'm speaking on behalf of my husband and I. This is Steve Ryder behind me. We are seeking this variance approval. We purchased this land in 2023, but we've actually been looking at this area for a while now. We currently reside in West Lafayette, Indiana, and our youngest son is set to graduate from high school in 2 years. So we've got 2 years to kind of make a plan or a vision come together, and this is part of that. So we hope to relocate from that area, come down to Bloomington, and this is really after scouting not only the entire state of Indiana, but Kentucky and Tennessee as well. So needless to say, we're very, passionate about this area that we've chosen. And part of that is not just to have a new home for ourselves, but I would describe both Steve and I as naturalists, environmentalists, conservationists. And it's not just, in the context of building a new home, but I'm a member of the Alliance for the Great Lakes. Beyond Plastics, a new member of the Friends of Lake Monroe, and my husband has been in conservation for more than a decade also, and he's part of the Roy Whistler Foundation as a board member and works with the Niches Land Trust. So that's just a little bit of background about us, and like other folks have said before, we don't have grandkids at present, but this is part of our long-term vision, our next chapter of our lives. So we chose this location knowing, as Ann stated, it is pretty far out of the way, so there are a lot of challenges with it. It is a large piece of land, but it's incredibly difficult to build on, which is probably why nobody's done it up until this point. It has been used for logging. That's quite the opposite of our interest in the land. We tried to scout really 4 different areas to potentially build on. Looking at the practicalities of building a septic system, doing the soil testing and all those things. So we have made an investment already trying to figure out what would work best. And this is the proposal that seemed like the best compromise. We do seek privacy. We want to build a home that you don't necessarily see from the road, not just for our sake, but for the visitors to that area. There are only 2 other houses in the area, but there are plenty of visitors to us. There's probably more traffic than you would think on that very narrow road with 2 ditches on either side, because you can get down to the lake from there. So we've seen people there doing, kayaking and fishing and even, camping or having fires down there at the waterfront. And I think even up until now, we've already demonstrated our commitment to the area because each time we go, we're picking up trash in the area along the shoreline and all the way up that hill, which is quite steep in many areas. So to Ann's point and really Todd's, we are trying to take advantage of an already cleared space. So the logging opens up a bit of a view, not much if you were to go out there today, which we did, because obviously the foliage is full, but in the winter you can see down that area. But there are some practical issues with building closer to the road. There is an easement. It is adjacent to another landowner's parcel. We have reached out to that individual to even potentially see about an easement, but we haven't had a response. I think he actually passed away recently and he owns several parcels in that area. It's Thomas Sites. So we can't, build up against this other property line to own 75 acres and then potentially be right next door to another house and on a road is not optimal. But there's also the easement with the county and the power lines overhead. And this area within this existing driveway that you can see is full of trees. And the area that we intend to build has no trees at the moment. So that's kind of our perspective, is to try to minimize disruption. As Todd stated, we have a larger footprint than what we really need plotted here. My goal is 3,000 square feet, so I'll even give to 3,500, but we want a smaller space and hopefully 2 stories, so that would also minimize the disruption to the soil. And I looked at the provisions if this was to be approved. I can't see any problems with us adhering to all of the provisions and the requirements if we were to get this 3% slope variance. I think that's it, I hope. Oh, my husband mentioned the forestry piece. So we do already have all but 1 acre of the property is designated forest. So we have been able to accomplish that in the last 6 months since purchasing the land. So this little piece right here is pretty much all we've really allocated for ourselves to do anything with.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time. We have questions for the petitioner or the petitioner's representative? You had a question that I interrupted?
Right. Thanks for bringing me back in. Yeah, I think that's probably Mr. Borgman would be the one I'd talk with this about. You moved the house here. I assume north is at the top here. So you moved the house to the southeast under the wire. Are you allowed to build under the wire? I mean, that seems like you can't build under the wire. They've got an easement there that prohibits building under the wire, I assume.
So there was no easement on record or search and deed, but yes, I would assume that there is a prescriptive easement for the power lines that you would not be allowed to build under.
Right. So where you show it in that drawing, which you submitted, could we have that back,
Can you point to the screen of where the wire exists? That's what I thought. And then it extends further to the east. Okay, so it's labeled OHW.
Correct.
So the image with the 12% has it at the same northwest, the same orientation to north and west and south and east. If you flip it and put it back, I'm going to walk up here and look.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I was trying to make it.
You just can't speak on the record.
Yes, so the reason for keeping the same orientation is to try to keep the same view through the logged area down to the lake.
Right. But with the smaller footprint that you're talking about and changing the angle, the orientation, do you think you'd be able to fit it in the 12% and not under the power line?
It's in the 12%. You're saying less than 12%.
No, within the less than 12% slope area. Could you fit it in there?
Depending on the size of it, yes, I think it's possible, but then that would also, affect the proximity to the road and the privacy wise. So if you look on the sketch as well, it moves it roughly 110 feet closer to the road to get it underneath the 12% slope.
And then it's underneath the wires, or the wire is directly in front of the house, if you were to.
Yes, that's correct.
There's an existing driveway on that photo, on that depiction. Why is there a big existing driveway if there's been no house on this property?
I would assume that the loggers did that to get their trucks in and out.
So they didn't pave it, it's like gravel, something like that?
Yes.
We got a curb cut permit, and they went ahead and,
It was the previous owner who logged?
Yes, that's correct.
I see.
So it's you want to preserve the view, and is the main reason you want it, and stay away from the road. Those are the two goals that you're trying to achieve by this location.
Yes, I would say so.
Okay, thank you.
And not cut more trees.
Well, would you have to cut more trees to put it in the 12?
that was the testimony of the petitioner.
Yes, okay. So the entire area of this 12% is got trees in it.
Not the entire area, but it definitely has more than the area on the yellow that Ann outlined as the logged area.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Ms. Owens, do you have any questions of the petitioner before we open this up to the public?
No, thank you. I've been having network issues here, but I heard everything. Thanks.
All right, thanks. All right, you guys want to have a seat pretty close here, and we can open it up to anybody that wishes to speak on behalf of the petitioner. First online, anyone? Seeing no one, let's open it up to anybody in the audience that would like to speak on behalf of the petitioner. Seeing no one, anybody online wish to speak in opposition of this petition online? Seeing no one, is there anybody in the room that wishes to speak in opposition of the petition that is present? All right. With that being the case, let's open this up for board discussion. Who would like to start?
Well, I'm very sympathetic to their circumstances, but I'm not personally convinced that I'm ready to look at this. And I know Mr. Borgman said we've granted others this evening, which we have, but those are little swimming pool size areas, not house-sized areas, where there's already existing construction. So I don't find that convincing for me. And it's just the 15% is pretty, the 12 over 12% is pretty sacred to me. I know it's a long way to the lake, but dirt runs downhill, and I understand very much, and it sounds like they're very committed to ecological values and view this as the best one, but I'm not convinced.
I would like to throw out there and say that this lot is very unique, and that power line is going to push me over the edge to define a practical difficulty. I believe that power line makes this practically unbuildable through a majority of that area, and keeping up with the integrity of that area, I think that's a reasonable request to have that house in a previously logged area with permits by a previous owner. I know there's some speculation made in the presentation that there was some opportunity here. Well, be that as it may, but that is the area that's logged currently. And I think it would be a difficulty to the environment and to the area to go ahead and to build any closer to that road. So someone could easily convince me with a motion that this is the right thing to do.
Let's just see if Dee has anything to say first.
Well, thank you, ma'am. Yeah, it's definitely a torn situation, but that much of a house, like Guy said, it's not just a swimming pool, it's a house and a big one. Put out over a 12% slope in Echo 1 is not good. And the reason that I heard the fellow say it was 600 to 700 feet from the lake, and that's fine. I actually own Echo 1 property and would love to have a view of the lake, but I have too much slope. And so the property is for mushroom hunting. So I agree with Guy that I want to protect that area from such a big building. I would suggest that somebody check into moving the power line and see how that goes. That's what I have.
Yeah. My goodness. So we have to decide what to do.
Well, I move to deny variance 24-30 on the grounds that while it's very understandable why everybody wants to have a view of the lake that is unobstructed, it's important that we preserve these ecological parcels. So I move that we deny the rider's request on East Gilmore Ridge.
All right, a motion has been made. Do I hear a second?
A second.
All right, a motion and a second has been made. Director, if you will call the roll, please.
Sure, the motion has been made on VAR-24-30, which is the Eco Area 1 12% slope encroachment to Chapter 825. A vote yes is a vote to deny the variance. I will remind the board that since there's 4 of you tonight, we still do need a majority, and if we fail to get a majority, we'll try again for another vote, or it
Thank you,
gets
Director.
automatically continued. All right, so I'll go ahead and start with Skip Daly,
No.
Guy Loftman,
Yes.
Dee Owens,
Yes.
Pamela Davidson.
No.
Okay, so
All
the
right.
motion fails for lack of majority.
Is there another motion made?
Concerning this?
Pardon?
You mean to adjourn?
No, we can,
Okay,
it's still open for, that didn't make it, so we could potentially.
right. I understand, and somebody wants to make a motion, they surely can.
Is there another motion on the table?
I think I know how the vote will come out with any
It's okay.
motion. There's usually 5 of us here, and we are 1 person short right now.
Do you wish to say something?
Yes, may I speak, or am I allowed to speak again?
Yes, briefly.
Would the board entertain making an amendment to reduced house size? I know that they spoke of, Ms. Owens and Mr. Loftman talked about the house size being too large. Would they consider a square footage restriction on the size of the house to approve?
Personally,
My answer to that is that I can't do anything that says, trust me. I would need you to bring it back with a different drawing in order to agree to that.
Yeah, I think at this point, we have to decide based on what is in front of us. And if there is not a denial or an approval, then you will have the opportunity to return. And on that has to get scheduled. And is it 60 days out? When is that? How?
So actually, if it's continued at tonight's hearing, it can go on to the August 6th agenda, which
It
is
could
in
go on
2
to the
weeks and 1
August
day.
6th agenda, or you could place it
I make a
on something.
motion. I make a motion to continue VAR-24-30 to the August meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to continue VAR-24-30 to the August 6th regularly scheduled Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. A vote yes is a vote to continue it, and I apologize. August 7th. August 6th is a different meeting. August 7th. It's a Wednesday. August 7th, 2024, 5:30, this room. A vote yes is a vote to continue it to the August 7th meeting. Skip Daly,
Present.
Guy Loftman,
yes.
Dee Owens,
Yes.
Pamela Davidson.
Yes.
Okay, so the motion does carry 3-0.
And could I ask that, I know you're going to bring in new drawings, could you also give us more information about that power line? We're very concerned about where it is on the, I guess it's marked there with overhead. It's right there. Must be very large. Must be.
And why don't you have some pretty clear communication with our staff if you cannot have your presentation prepared for that, give them as much notice as possible, and we can bring you back at a later date. All right. Well, with that being said, Director, do you have anything for us?
No, I do not.
All right. Any other board members with anything to share before we adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
All right.
Motion to second.
All right. Adjournment accepted.